wants to be a spinner wants to spin the ball big, but certain people aren't able to do it. So when we say you need to spin the ball big, we need to spin the ball big, it's an easy thing to say, but how do we help those bowlers to spin the ball big? So where does that come from? How does one develop it?
Yeah, I think one thing you and me agree on commentary is that we must correct one thing which people think. A lot of even foreign commentators who are big experts say the pitch will spin. Pitch will not spin. The ball will turn off the pitch. It's the bowler who's got to spin the ball. So
I agree with you on everything. I agree with you on everything regarding to spin.
You don't spin the ball and you expect the pitch to spin the ball. I think that's a ridiculous comment a lot of people make. I don't know, it's still people don't correct it. But for me, the wrist position and your body balance. Body balance and wrist position is so important because once you're in control of your body, you can control the ball in your hand. If you don't have control over your body, you can't control anything. So your balance and your wrist position, your hand position, and the strength of your fingers. I mean, if people meet Shane Warne, you can't shake hands at this point in time with the COVID going around. You look at his fingers, you look at Venkatraman's fingers, oh, strong fingers. They could really impart a lot of spin. It's how much you spin, that depends on how much turn you will get off the pitch, depending on what kind of a pitch it is.
Again, a great point you made, because Pishan Paji always used to tell the spinners, why is it that when you run and bowl, the ball doesn't spin, but when you stand and bowl, the ball spins big? See, exactly the point you made, that when you're in control of your body, you can do things a lot better than when you're not in control of the body. And that's why you always felt that people need to be in control of the body when they hit the crease, when you gain all the momentum, and when you load up and hit the crease, that's the time to be in control of.
I think when you're stationary, you're very well balanced.
Exactly.
When you run in, that's where you tell some of the boys when they start to bowl, is bowl stationary bowling to start with, then gradually go backwards. Instead of running in and bowling, develop a balance in the delivery stride, ask him to bowl a few, and gradually increase his run up to a point where he's comfortable to maintain the same kind of balance when he was stationary at the crease. So I think you need to change the coaching technique a little bit, because the ultimate important thing is the balance in the delivery stride. And what kind of a run-up will give you that balance in the delivery stride to be able to do anything that you want. I think that's the way people have got to work on it backwards instead of running in and then trying to achieve the balance. Because the speed in which you run also matters quite a bit. Yeah. Certain people try to run a little quickly, like Chahal runs a little quickly. If you look at somebody like a Markandeya, I'm talking about today's spinners because people have seen today's spinners. Markandeya runs in a little bit slowly. So people have one particular speed that they are comfortable with, and that gives them the balance that is required at the delivery stride.
Do leg spinners also need that pause before delivery?
Absolutely. That's when you recollect yourself and try and plant your front leg. I mean, let me compare this to a batsman. When a batsman is playing any kind of shot on the front foot or back foot, his front leg lands in a position close to the pitch of the ball, and then the bat comes through. Similarly, for a bowler, the front leg lands and then the bowling hand comes through. If you're doing it at the same time, you're not going to have that kind of balance. You've got to have firm footing, very, very strong base. When you put your front leg, then you know you're in control of the body, then you're looking at the spot where you want to bowl, and then try and get it there or thereabouts. So I think planting of the front leg very firmly and achieving, because I mentioned once, when you're bowling, when you're releasing the ball, you're actually on one leg. And that for one leg to take your entire body weight, it's got to be firm and not flexed at all. No collapse. It can't be collapsing. It's got to be ramrod straight.
Yeah, ramrod straight. And another topic which you touched, which is very, very interesting, and it's always something which you and me discuss, even in the comm box, is to coach right. And that is what you mentioned recently, that they need to be coached right. But don't you see, or don't you feel that with the amount of white ball cricket being played and the amount of cricket which the youngsters want to play, they want to play IPL, they want to play T20, they want to play that more, does it affect the quality of coaching because they have to bowl differently to survive in that format? But whereas to bowl in a longer format with the red ball, different skill set and mindset is required. So how does a coach arrive at a balance when you do that? Because you're playing this, you're playing that, but how do you coach the youngster?
And let me answer it in two parts. When you get to the IPL, there are a lot of foreign coaches involved. I really wonder how much knowledge they have about spin bowling. It's just because they bowl four, or they put four cones, Karthik. You and me go to the pitch side, and when we do commentary, they put four cones and ask them to land the ball there. That's not spin bowling. I really wonder the IPL coaches, whoever they are, how many of them are well versed in coaching and imparting the art of spin bowling. But when you get to test match cricket, that's why you find people bowling 50, 60 overs to get 4 or 5 wickets, because they are in a defensive mode. Even in IPL, people are apprehensive about flighting the ball. People are apprehensive about flighting the ball because they're scared they'll get hit. I always believe the bowler is the one who's proactive, because he's the one who's initiating the action and releasing the ball. And when you ask a batsman, he says, I play on the merit of the ball. I mean, when you talk about conventional cricket, they play on the merit of the ball. But the spinner, on the other hand, is thinking, if I flight ball, I'll get hit. I mean, why do you imagine things? Be brave enough. You're a bowler, even in T20 cricket. If you go for a 4 and 4 singles, a boundary and 4 singles is 8 runs to the over. Give yourself 1 dot ball. 8 runs to the over, or 4 overs, 32 and 2 wickets will make a lot of difference. So 8 runs per over is not pressure on the bowler, because 160 the target. If every bowler gives 8 runs per over, if a target is 160, it's easily gettable these days with the kind of bats they have and the small size boundaries. So I don't know why spinners are apprehensive about flighting the ball. And I feel that even in longer formats of cricket, it's about bowling a lot of overs. That's why you find somebody like Imran Tahir, maybe Chahal is not played a test match yet, but there are a lot of spinners who are comfortable, even in Adam Zampa, when you have fielders on the boundary line. That is security for them, security for a bad ball. You don't get to do that in test match cricket. Like I mentioned earlier, you'll have only 5 fielders in the outfield, and you've got to be exceptionally good, not only with spinning the ball both ways, having a lot of variations, but also being very, very accurate. The odd boundary will go. The batsman is there to score runs, the bowler is there to take wickets. So at the back of your mind, we were taught to bowl for wickets, not bowl tight, keep it tight, and wait for the batsman to make a mistake. A good player, when he gets in, is not going to make a mistake. He's going to make it count in a big manner. Like a Virat Kohli, if you let him get to 30, he's going to get a big 100. You need to try and get him out. A bowler's job is to get a wicket, so start thinking wickets.
No, I can have a chat with you on this, and having played all 3 formats, and I've played quite a bit of T20 cricket. You've seen me bowling in red ball cricket. I only thought wickets, and I bowled without point and everybody there. So my mindset was always attacking. So was the case in 50 over cricket as well, because I've always believed that the middle portion is the time where you get wickets. If you allow the game to drift, that's where the batsman gets set. That has always been my concept. So you can attack because you've got more overs to bowl. And again, you said sometimes you bowl 50, 60 overs to get 4 or 5 wickets. That's what happens in red ball cricket. But what happens in white ball cricket, and I can understand why the spinners don't do it. And I, for one, had a different mindset going into a T20. The first time I played T20, I played it like a red ball game. I played it like a red ball game. I went for 42 runs in 2 games. 2 games, 39 and 42, and I didn't get a wicket. I didn't get a wicket because then I realized that I'm not bowling 4 overs at a stretch. I am bowling 1 over somewhere, 1 over somewhere, 1 over somewhere. And if I think like a 4-day bowler, then the batsman's already set. That's where I had to change my mentality and look. And I said, listen, I need to get to a stage where I know I cannot set up a batsman. I don't have enough overs to set up a batsman. So I should go 6 runs in this over. If I can go for 24 runs, I might pick up a wicket, or if I bowl well, someone else might pick up a wicket. So that's where my ideology changed. And also with the boundaries coming in so much, sometimes the bowlers don't want to, because even though you might give 8 or 9 runs, you're not assured of a wicket. That's what I realized from my first 2 games. I kept doing that every ball. which you don't do. Even now, you still have to toss the ball off. You still have to flight the ball, because that's where you don't allow the batsman to second guess you, and you not to allow to line you. But if it's only attacking, you end up going for lots of runs. Again, I'll give you a very classic example. If you did the IPL final in 2013 against KKR versus RCB, which KKR won. I'll give you a simple example of Karanveer Singh, who kept tossing the ball up. He got 4 wickets, but he cost the team 60 runs, and at crucial stages as well. So I think that's one of the reasons why the spinners win in T20, just in T20, because you bowling 1 over somewhere, you're running around, you're not warmed up to bowl, and then you have to bowl 1 over. I think that's why they don't do it. That's my personal opinion, because that was my feeling after a few games of T20, Ellis.
No, that's a difficult thing to do. I mean, bowling just 1 over spells is very, very difficult. And like you mentioned, if you bowl in the Parkway, you might have the restriction of having just 2 fielders outside. But you know the batsman is not set. The batsman is not set. Maybe 1 or 2 overs, he might try and gauge the wicket, try and see if the ball's turning. So that gives you a chance to slip in a couple of tight overs. But if you're bowling in the middle overs and the batsman is well set, he knows exactly what the pitch is doing. He is well set. He knows how to play you. And you have to settle down. The batsman is already settled down. So he's going to take the attack to you right from the first ball. He will not allow you to settle down. And bowling 1 over spells, every time you come on to bowl, they charge you with the first 2 balls and hit you for a boundary. Then the entire pressure is on you. So I think when a bowler's bowling a good spell, let him go through with that. It's just 4 overs. Let him go through with that. I mean, even talking about 50 over cricket, when I played 50 over cricket, I used to bowl 10 overs on the trot. But you see, the captaincy and the planning, everything has changed. Spinners or fast bowlers, 50 over cricket, they don't bowl 10 overs on the trot. I mean, you don't expect fast bowlers to bowl 10 overs on the trot, but you expect spinners, if they bowl well, to bowl 10 overs on the trot. Doesn't happen. They're bowling in spells. In T20, of course, 1 over spells. Sometimes you're lucky to get a 2 over spell. You're very, very lucky. I mean, that's where the captaincy comes in. The captaincy comes in there. I think in domestic cricket, what I've seen, there are not too many good captains. That's why you see not too many great spinners coming up, not too many promising spinners coming up. Even at the international level, it's about managing a spinner. You would have played under various captains. And I, for one, believe Sunil Gavaskar was the best captain that I played. And maybe after that, it was Brijesh Patel. He knew how to handle a spinner, especially a leg spinner. Because you might go for a boundary. It's not the number of boundary balls that they looked at. It's number of wicket-taking balls that he can bowl is what they looked at. If you bowl 20 overs, go at 5 and over, say 20 overs, 100 runs at 5 wickets on day 1 of a match, you would have bowled the opposition out in 80 overs. And you're still batting on a really good pitch, no matter where it is. The earlier you bowl a side out, you get to bat on a good pitch. Suppose you bowl the same 40 overs, 45 overs, 100 runs at 5 wickets, you're going to bat on day 2 towards the end, or maybe even day 3, which means you're batting on a pitch where there's a lot more wear and tear. So the importance of taking wickets at a good strike rate, even if you go for runs, it doesn't matter. There are other bowlers who can keep it tight, especially for a leg spinner. You're bound to bowl the bad ball every now and again. But the most important thing is how many wicket-taking balls can you bowl and how much of good support that somebody can give you from the other end.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And also, see, every spinner needs a settling in period, isn't it? It is different for different people. You might be able to suss out what's the pace required and say 6 deliveries. I might take 3 overs to do it. And also, that's where in T20 cricket, you don't have that time. The first ball has to be on the spot. Otherwise, you can be hit for a 6 or a 4, and immediately, as you said, you're under pressure. So you hardly have any time to suss out. What was your settling in period, and what was it like? Like Shane Warne always says, all fielders and then bring them in, or was it always attack from the first ball?
Oh, it was attack. Played for Tamil Nadu with captains like Srikanth and Venkatraghavan. They were attacking all the time. Venki was a very, very accurate bowler, and he expected each and every bowler to do the same. So he would start any bowler off with a slip, silly point, and a forward short leg. Shika, on the other hand, will not even give me a square leg. He'll say, you can turn the ball. If he sweeps, it'll go right above his nose. He'll get a top edge. Srikanth wouldn't even give me a square leg. He'd give me a short leg for the googly, a mid-wicket, and a mid-on. So they were very, very attacking captains. and I always had attacking field sets. And luckily, at that point of time, Tamil Nadu had a very strong batting lineup, so we didn't mind giving 300 runs because we knew we can get it back. But I played under captains who were very serious about having strong field sets, close in field sets, and not worry about boundaries.
Do you feel that that is needed in your formative years more, Ellis, that sets you to be the bowler you are? Because once you have bowled in difficult circumstances, like you mentioned, with fielders in, no fielders for back delivery, do you think that sets you up because you've learned it that way? So you know that I have to be on the money from the word go?
I mean, that's what you do in the nets. You have an imaginary field. You have an imaginary field, and Venkatraman would say, nominate your field and then bowl. You would start off with that. Bishan will say, nominate how you're going to get him out and then bowl. So these were the kind of net practice sessions that we used to have. I mean, we were lucky that we were able to interact with Bishan Bedi, Prasanna, and Venkatraman. Chandra again was a shy man. But Venki would always say in the nets that nominate your field initially, and then he would ask you how you're trying to get him out. So it was always happening in the net sessions, even though it was simulated like a match situation. I mean, people play without net these days to have a field of the match. Those days we used to have the nets, but still had to nominate a field and how we plan to get the batsman out. So that was a challenge by itself, and you developed all these habits while practicing.
As you yourself said, you've played with so many great spinners, been helped by so many spinners, and watched so many spinners. How has the game changed? How has spin bowling changed for you over these 3-4 generations, Ellis?
I think defensive. Wait for the batsman to get out. They are more inclined into bowling for the probably instead of strike rate, they're bowling for the economy rate, and they try to keep it tight and hoping that the batsman would make a mistake. But earlier, I think the kind of spin bowlers that we had the class and the ability to force a mistake and box a batsman. But today it's the number of dot balls, number of maiden overs that you bowl. Research says if you bowl 4 maiden overs in the trot, even in test match cricket, I think there's bound to be a mistake in the 5th over. So people are looking at economy more than aggression and trying to take wickets. I think it's become very, very defensive.
But where do you think that has started? Because again, everybody says that leg spinners have always been an attacking weapon in your kitty. So leg spinners, if they're attacking, obviously it's a tough art. It's possibly the toughest art in terms of spin bowling. The odd delivery can be loose or inaccurate. So why has it changed? Is it because the mindset of the captains has changed? Or do you feel the formats, the way we play cricket over 4 days has changed, that people are saying, let's squeeze and get wickets rather than let's try and attack and get wickets?
I mean, even in test match cricket, Karthik, you see a deep point even for fast bowlers. Bowlers don't like conceding boundaries, and that's become a habit because of playing a lot of white ball cricket. When you play a lot of 50-over games and T20 games, you don't like to concede boundaries. And once these things happen over a period of time, anything that you do consistently over a period of time becomes a habit. So when you get into red ball cricket, your mindset still remains that you should not be conceding runs. You should be bowling maiden overs. You should be keeping it tight. Wait for the batsman to make a mistake. And that's where the captaincy comes in. That's where the captains will have to encourage bowlers. Maybe use the stock bowler, one of the stock bowlers, to keep it tight, to create pressure, and use your spinners in an attacking manner where they bowl with a lot of freedom, bowl with a lot of liberty, flight the ball, impart a lot of spin. I mean, we are talking about drop, the dip on the batsman, which is hardly happening these days because spinners are reluctant to flight the ball. If the pitch is good, you've got to deceive the batsman in the air. The famous words of Bishan Bedi. If there is something in the pitch, use the pitch. So you've got to gauge the situation and the type of bowling that needs to be there, change of pace, using the crease, what is required in that surface against that particular opponent. Once you gauge it quickly and you win the confidence of the captain and stick to the style of bowling that is required, you will definitely be successful.
But again, that goes back to the same thing, that we need to go back to the drawing board to create spinners who think like this, isn't it? So it's that from a very young age, once you are taught rightly, taught correctly, Can your basics form correctly? Which means that as you play different formats, your own intellect kicks in, your own survival instincts kick in, which happen to so many bowlers. If you're taught the right way, you bowl in different circumstances, you bowl to great batsmen, and then you yourself start analyzing, these are the things I need to do if I have to survive.
And also another thing that we need to talk about, Karthik, is we spoke about spin and turn earlier. Spin is in the air, turn is off the pitch. And when you tell bowlers to bowl flat, flat is the trajectory, is the height of the delivery. Most spinners bowl fast. Flat is mistaken for fast. When you reduce your trajectory flat, you can bowl slower through the air, wherein you can change your pace. Generally, the batsman thinks when you bowl a flatter trajectory, it's a quicker delivery.
Yeah.
So you can work on varying your pace from quick to slow with different trajectories. And like I said, once you do this and then use the angles, that's when you can try and fox the batsman. At least the batsman is thinking when you use the crease, oh, he's going wide of the crease, what's he trying to do? Get the batsman thinking. Instead of allowing the batsman to play with freedom and wait for him to make a mistake, you've got to use the tricks of the trade. And I'm quite happy with what they're doing. If they're economical, if they end up with 3 or 4 wickets, they are more than happy. So I think it's contentment, because it's become a habit for them that they are satisfied not giving runs. And if they get so many chances these days. I mean, in your time, my time, you had a couple of bad matches. You were out for a couple of seasons. I mean, the kind of opportunity that the cricketers have these days, which I'm very proud of, I'm happy for them. I think they should start bowling in a positive manner, in the manner which they are expected to bowl, depending on the kind of cricket that they're playing, the T20s or 50-over games or test matches, and try and be bold and try and dictate the game.
Ellis, when I was your roommate, I still remember you explained something to me which I didn't understand at that point of time with regards to my own action. You said I was doing something right. So today I thought that as I've started understanding spin a little better than before, I want you to explain. You always used to say that at the point when I load up and when my back leg lands, and I don't know, you used to say that it is going in the right way. I've still not been able to understand what you meant so many years ago. So please explain it to me today.
So, see, when you run it, when you run into bowl, angular run up, you had an angular run up, I had an angular run up, you had to get straight to the target at the point of release. So it all happens in the delivery stride. In the delivery stride, all the run up is about momentum. The balance in the delivery stride and the momentum will give you the energy to be able to spin the ball and bowl in the direction that you want. And I also said bowl in line with the wicketkeeper, because generally on a good batting pitch, that's the line that you want to bowl. So if you take your entire body in the direction of where you want to bowl, you will be far more effective, far more consistent, and less injury prone, which is so important. We were made to bowl 20-over spells, 25-over spells, and you don't get tired. If you have a good action, if your alignment, front leg, back leg in a straight line alignment, if your non-bowling arm is used well, you use your entire body, I think you will not only be more effective, you can be bowling long spells as well.
No, for me, what you meant was that you liked something which I did, which was, I think, at the time of my back leg landing, my arm was like this or this. I can't remember what it was. I still can't figure out. But you said that that is the right way to do, because then your arm goes up. I still haven't understood that jazz till now.
No, I'm talking about synchronization again. When your back leg lands, and that's the time you load. Your back leg lands, and that's the time you load. You will find everything happening very nicely. You'll have the rock back foot landing, rock back, and time of gather. If that happens at the same time, you'll find smooth flow of the arms and releasing the ball very nicely. So that is so important. You find a lot of spinners these days, they are in a hurry to bowl. What's the hurry? Take your time, get your body in a good position, rock back, have a nice gather. Gather is so important because that gets your wrist in the right position at the time of release. Only if your gather is
right. As leg spinners, you guys gathered like this. Can the finger spinners gather like this as well? Because my gather was like this. I don't know whether it was because of Bishan Bedi. So I was always looking, my gather was, my knuckles were facing my chin. Was that the right way?
No, it eventually matters as to how it is when you're about to release the ball.
Okay.
How your wrist position is when you're about to release the ball. If that is in the correct position, there is no problem at all. Because how you gather, maybe you've seen a lot of pictures of Bishan Bedi, but at the time of release, if you pause and see your wrist, it'll be in a perfect position for you to be able to tweak the ball. And your index finger is the spinning finger for you and the off spinners. So the gap between the index finger and the middle finger is so important. So you ideally want the wrist to be in the right position at the point of release.
Did the pitch ever matter to you? Whether it was quick, spinny, bouncy, low, did you ever take that into your equation while bowling?
Well, in my career, the first match that I played, I made my debut in first class cricket was a square turner. After that, I didn't play any of those turners. 9 test matches, not a single turner. But the first match that I played was against Delhi, and they had a terrific batting lineup. They had the likes of Chetan Chauhan, Surendra Ramanath, Mohinder Ramanath, Kirti Asad, Surendra Khanna. Oh, a lot of them, a lot of very good players. Raman Lamba, late Raman Lamba, very, very good players. So it was a square turner. We decided we had only spinners. We didn't have fast bowlers. In fact, Srikanth opened the bowling in that particular match, and it was the spinners that were going to do all the damage. So it was a square turner, and Venkat Raghavan was so helpful of telling me where exactly to bowl. And he just told me, just think it's spot bowling, look at the spot and keep bowling there. Eventually, in a matter of 7 overs, I got 7 for 11. So, which is wonderful. I think Venkat Raghavan guided me, and the pitch, that was a square turner. It was a low scoring game. Maninder bowled well. Maninder got 11 wickets in the match. I got 11 wickets in the match. And Delhi won the game narrowly. But I think that's when Maninder and me made a mark. Otherwise, when I played at the other level, it was all batsmen who were captains. They wanted good batting pitches.
So I can imagine when you made your test debut, Antigua must have been very, very flat.
Oh, I got to commit suicide instead of that.
Very close to the ocean. Alex, one more thing which I thought you're the right person to ask as well. We always say finger spinner and wrist spinner. Does it mean that the wrist spinner doesn't use the finger, or the finger spinner doesn't use the wrist? Can you explain to everyone as well?
No, finger spinner, wrist spinner. I mean, Muttiah Muralidharan, he used his wrist. He used his wrist, Muttiah Muralidharan. And generally, I mean, when they say wrist spinners, it's about the leg spinner who just uses the wrist a lot more. Yeah, absolutely. He uses the wrist a lot more, the flick of the iron, flick of the hand. So that's why they call the leg spinners the wrist spinners. But Muttiah Muralidharan, even being an off spinner, used the wrist.
So I think if a wrist spinner is called a wrist spinner, then he should hold the ball here, not in the fingers. And since as finger spinners, we also use the wrist. We also use the wrist in a different way, possibly. Yeah, possibly the amount where the percentage of the ratio of fingers versus wrist is different for a finger spinner and different for a wrist spinner.
Yeah, it is. It's just that leg spinners use more of the wrist, whereas the off spinner use more of the fingers. They do use the wrist. It has to come into play for you to give it a tweak. That is for a genuinely good spinner who turns the ball. I mean, who gives it a real good tweak. But you find a lot of people just rolling the ball, which is more a finger spin. But even finger spinners use their wrists.
Correct. Alex, you've always been a huge fan and a great proponent of or an advocate of bowlers and spinners setting their own field. But sometimes it's a tough thing with a captain. So how do you manage that? Would you always, as a captain, say, you're the spinner, you set my field, you set your own fields, or does it change for different bowlers?
That's one of the reasons why I said I felt very comfortable playing under Sunil Gavaskar. I can tell you an incident in the World Championship of Cricket. We were playing England when we had about 230 to defend. They were 99 for 2. I got Martin Moxon out bowling round the wickets, cotton bowled. And the strategy was to bowl round wickets with 5 fielders on the leg side, short front leg, deep square leg, deep mid wicket, short mid wicket, and log on. And we were playing at Sydney, so trying to force them to hit against the turn and the spin. So I was going at 4.5 per over on an average. And I got the wicket of Martin Moxon. Alan Lamb came into bat. So I went to Sunny Bhai and told him, I just want to bowl over the stumps to Aaron Lamb because the series that we played in India, he could never pick my googly. So I told Gavaskar. Gavaskar said, no, as long as you're not conceding boundaries, ones and twos doesn't matter. As long as you're not conceding boundaries, you're doing a fine job. Keep bowling around the wickets. I said, no, you just give me 1 over, take the short fine leg, put him at short third man, just give me 1 over, I'll get you his wicket. Then I changed the field to a predominantly offside field and gave the impression to Aaron Lamb that I'm going to bowl leg breaks. And I bowled 5 googlies in a row and he got out to the 5th one. He got out guessing which one was going to be the leg spin. So Gavaskar was the man who gave me the freedom. Unless a captain has confidence in you, he's not going to give you the field that you want. So you've got to interact with the captain and convince him how you're trying to get the batsman out. And that's the reason why you want this kind of a field.
And also, we talk about drop and we talk about drift, but we use different balls. See, when you use a red ball, I don't know, this is my personal feeling that this red ball drifts and drops and spins a lot more than a white ball. Did you feel that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Apart from the Kookaburra balls, which you struggled to grip, I mean, in the 80s when we toured Australia, the Kookaburra ball, once it got old, the seam would just wear off. So it was very, very difficult to grip. But the kind of ball, the Dukes or SG, when the seam is very, very prominent, I think you can spin the ball a lot more. And the red ball also drifts a lot more than the white ball.
Yeah, I feel it drops a lot more. Drifts, yes.
Yeah.
But also I feel that the revs you give, it drops a lot more. The same amount of revs you give on a white ball, it doesn't drop as much as also what I feel, I personally feel.
Yeah, Karthik, you're right. Because of the prominent seam, there is more resistance. With a white ball, the seam is not prominent. There's less resistance. So you find because of the less resistance, the ball is not dropping on the batsman. With a red ball, because of the prominent seam, and you're able to impart a lot more spin because of the prominent seam, there is more drop with the red ball.
And also, I think thankfully we are in the com box now. The more we see white ball, it seems to be traveling farther and farther away than the red ball.
That's because you find something very silly, don't you? I mean, when a fast bowler gets hit, he bowls slower balls.
They bowl slower ones, yeah.
Yeah, when the spinner gets hit, he starts bowling faster and faster. The strange kind of tactics that they adopt. The faster you bowl as a spinner, the easier it is to hit.
Yeah, 100%. Ellis, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been wonderful just trying to threadbare all the nuances of spin bowling cricket, try and understand leg spin, try and understand the mindset, the technique behind it. Thanks for being on Spin Talks.
Thank you very much, Karthik. It's only that if we had known all these things when we were playing cricket, we would have achieved a lot more. But no regrets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Leslie. Cheers.